Hey everyone, Eric Watson here, freelance writer, player of games, writer of words, recorder of videos, and tabletop role-playing aficionado. Welcome to another DM's Guild review, my written and video review series where I take a look at the adventures and supplement material at the Dungeon Masters Guild website. This video I'll be reviewing the DM series of supplements, Various Vehicles, designed by William Bosley for Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition. A review copy has been provided for the purposes of this review. If you enjoy my videos, consider using my affiliate links for your DM's Guild shopping, supporting me via patreon.com/roguewatson. Shoutouts to my platinum patrons, Joe, Will, Tiny Dancer, Nick R, Andy, Chris, Manuel, and Basil, and gold patrons RPG Papercrafts, Charming Grenade, Pretty Boy, Numa, Marcos, Dave Vicente, Gilberto, Sean, AK, Cert, Tubi, Adam, The Desert Lounge, Sam, Arash, Lumpy Spuds, Jerome, Fatboy 619, Skalenia, Nick C. Thank you all very much for your support. So there is precedence for this, but I am combining multiple similar supplements into one review, which is actually going to be my biggest con of this product, which is that it's even separated into multiple supplements. I think it would have been more effective to just do one big one. But there's various vehicles, whatever kind of vehicles. There's various vehicles carriages, various vehicles wagons, various vehicles carts. Shouldn't say that too many times too fast. And all of them provide... What they do is they apply the land vehicle rules that were provided in Descent into Avernus with the hellish war machines, and apply some of those more expanded rules into just everyday vehicles that would be much more practical to actually use in every other D&D campaign, which would be all the things I mentioned, wagons and carriages and things, and actually make those things a lot more interesting and fun to use rather than just kind of a narrative device. So I think it's really effective at what it does. Which is, provide new stat blocks for all these various contraptions, as well as give some fun rules for, crashing and mishaps is really fun. You can repair things like in mid, chase sequence. It doesn't change any of the chase rules, which I was kind of hoping it would do, because, I mean, gosh, if you're gonna write a whole supplement about vehicles, as a DM, I'm going to want to put a chase sequence in there, because that's the most fun thing I think you can do with a vehicle. That's what makes things exciting. I mean, yeah, you can have a monster swoop down or something, but chase sequences are really fun, and you don't get a whole lot of that in, D&D, because we're dealing with, chariots and wagons and not race cars. So it would have been nice to see that, but it mainly just covers, rules for driving, whether through draft animals attached to the, wagon or cart, whatever, or actual, intelligent creatures, which the example for the carriage is the rickshaw. Somebody just kind of picks it up and runs with it. So the rules are largely the same for those two, but there are extra rules for caring for animals and avoiding any crashing and mishaps and dodging out of the way. I really like the concept of vehicular exhaustion. I think that's a really clever way of applying the fact that a vehicle can get wear and tear over time and can suffer from exhaustion, even though obviously it's not biologically exhausted. But I like that they're using exhaustion as a mechanic to showcase how a vehicle can be worn over time. And in this case, it's just if a vehicle reaches exhaustion level 6, then the entire vehicle breaks down, as if it also reached 0 hit points from just straight damage. So I thought that was a really clever way of applying exhaustion to a vehicle. The mishap table is probably the best thing out of this fairly brief supplement, but it's a D20 table, and essentially anytime a vehicle takes a certain amount of damage, it's like a massive damage table basically, depending on the vehicle, and all the vehicles still have their damage thresholds, which is anything that's an object made out of a hard material has a damage threshold, which means you have to deal that much damage to even deal any damage to the thing. So they all still have that, but they also have a mishap threshold, which I believe is about half of the damage threshold. Is it half or is it double? I forget the... the mishap threshold is double the damage threshold. So if it takes a shit ton of damage from a single source, then it suffers from a mishap, and you can roll a d20, or obviously you can just choose one as a DM. And they're all kind of fun things that are designed that would make things like a chase sequence a lot of fun. For example, the armor is shredded so that the damage threshold goes down. It's easier to attack it. one of your weapons is malfunctioning, which unfortunately none of the carriage stat blocks we get really go into the truly like crazy cool. I mean, there's some neat ones in here. There's an armored carriage, which looks really cool and has all these, full cover capacities and huge stats, 60 hit points, 20 armor class. But we never get anything that's like really, like truly out, like a freaking battle station that's like, mounted crossbows. I mean, the armored carriage is nice and it costs 600 gold. Like most, like even at the end of tier 1 or tier 2 heroes are getting an armored carriage. I would love one that really goes above and beyond. I guess the royal carriage is 1600. That one's pretty nice, but even then, none of these actually come with, mounted weapons. And I don't expect these to be like land ships or anything with, cannons and catapults or anything, but it'd be really fun to kind of go into a little bit more of a zany section and truly be able to mount some crazy stuff. Because, players are going to do that, and frankly, it's fun. It's fun to have these kind of cool, weapons on your thing. So I got excited when I saw that weapon malfunction was one of them, thinking, oh, we're going to get some really fancy, stat blocks with all these weapons on it, but that's not, unfortunately, the case. It's actually pretty realistic when it comes to their carriages. I do love the artwork, by the way, even though it's a very, plain style. But we get the nice, parchment paper background. But I really love this kind of black and white, very like Western looking art style. I mean, obviously it's, Western art here, but I thought that was just a really good look if you're going to do these kind of wagons and carts, and it looks nice. As good as that looks, I think this is Times New Roman font. Don't use Times New Roman, and I don't know why that bugs me so much, but it looks bad. It looks distractingly bad, and that is extremely nitpicky. I know it is, but I do not like the way this font looks. And not every font has to be Scaly Sans. Don't feel like you have to use the exact same format as everybody else uses, but for some reason this font does not look good at all to me. But I do like the art, and I think the art and the the background parchment paper and all that kind of makes up for it. Anyway, the mishap table is what I was going over. You can drag components, and that throws, the dust and debris in the air, which can blind you. An axle gets damaged, so you've got disadvantage on dexterity checks and all the various, attack rolls and checks you have to make inside the vehicle because you're bumping along. And of course, if you roll the ultimate 20, although I think it should be a reverse. I think the 1 should be the worst mishap, and the 20 should be like the least worst one, because 20 is better. The vehicle actually flips over and everybody crashes inside, which is very exciting. So I think that's a cool idea that you can just do one big attack instead of having to wear a vehicle down over time. Have those exciting moments. Or it does mention that, narratively, if if your party or if an enemy does something, out of the ordinary, so there's some kind of like spell maybe that could, knock it off its ass or something, then you can let that happen and then roll a mishap on there. So I think that's a really fun table, and it's very effective. And again, I would have liked to see this applied to a chase sequence in here, or maybe some kind of slight modification on chase rules, or how to maybe break that down. I realize that's kind of asking for maybe beyond the scope of what the supplement is, but immediately when I see all this, I'm thinking, okay, now I got to do a chase sequence, and I would love to see kind of those kind of rules expanded in this same supplement. But we do get some nice, crashing rules. We get repairs, and you can make the exciting repairs in the middle of a chase sequence. You can actually use an action, and if you notice, each of these mishaps actually lists its own repair, DC, and skill check. And yes, you have disadvantage if the vehicle is moving at the time. But I love the visualization of somebody hanging out trying to fix an axle as you're racing down. It's just the chase sequences just seems like so much fun, and such a for such an action-oriented universe and gameplay, you never get the chase sequence because it's it's a generally high fantasy medieval period, and that's usually not something we get with vehicular chases. So I think that's something missing from a lot of D&D games, and I would have loved to see more of that. And I think this can certainly help and lend you to being able to use those. So there's some good rules in here. So as an example, I've only got these two, which are various vehicles carts and various vehicles carriages. And the reason I'm doing this review for both of these supplements together, and all of them, as I said, I believe there's 4 of them. Let's see, there's carriages, wagons, carts, and chariots, and I think coming soon is sleds. There's going to be 5. The rules are the exact same for all of which means the first 7 pages, with maybe minor differences, are the exact same for all of it. In fact, look at this. On page 6 and 7, I'm switching. Well, I guess you can't see because my banner's blocking it, but I'm switching tabs right now. and you can't even tell I'm switching. So like here is this is carts, and then this one is, there you go, I can kind of tell I'm switching acts. So my point is, there's no reason to separate these into multiple supplements, and I don't think the designer's idea was to try to nickel and dime people and release them as, piecemeal DLC or anything. I think it was done out of a genuine, like, hey, if you only need, wagons or only need carts, here's this one. But I think it's a misstep because all the rules are the exact same. The only difference is the stat blocks at the end, and the stat blocks are really only like, what is it, like 3 pages or something, like, and they're fine. They're good carts, Brent. But there's also nothing terribly exciting about the stat blocks either. There's nothing like very exotic or super interesting. It's very much like the practical everyday stuff that you would see. So they do have some good fun like abilities added in there and stuff that would make sense. But in the most part, that's all you're really getting. Once you've purchased one of these, you've got the rules. So the only reason to get the others would be the stat block. So I would have way preferred if this were just one supplement called various vehicles, and then they had the rules first, and then you had, okay, and then here's your wagons, here's your carts, here's your chariot. Just included as one big supplement. So I don't think there was any reason to divide this up, just because all the rules are apparently just the exact same for all of these things. So I don't think it makes any sense to actually release these as separate supplements, and I think it would have been a better sell and a better buy for folks, knowing they could have just bought one thing, and that included, all the very common vehicles that players would encounter that aren't like, Mad Max Fury Road Hell vehicles from Avernus. So I think that's the concept is good, but I think the execution of trying to separate them into different products was a misstep. But otherwise, let's go over my pros and cons, because it's a very, very short supplement. Pros: rules for driving, repairing, crashing, and vehicular exhaustion. I think it does exactly what it sets out to do, which is applying those expanded land vehicle rules from Baldur's Gate Descent into Avernus into more everyday vehicles, and includes all those various rules. And none of them seem very complicated, overly complex. I think it does a good job of not really. There's one like targeted thing you can do where you can choose to take like a -5 on your attack to target a certain part of the vehicle in order to create a mishap. That's starting to get a little fiddly, but I think that's okay. I like the idea behind it. Pro: the D20 table of driving mishaps. I really enjoy this table. I think that's pretty much the best part of this supplement, and it effectively allows you to create a more dynamic situation in all these chase sequences. It's basically a chase complication that's specific on being able to stop or otherwise hinder a vehicle, and obviously you can see the potential for it for both a player vehicle or an enemy vehicle, and even 2 vehicles and 2 different parties jacking with each other constantly. I think is a lot of fun. Pros: I really like the art style here. I think it's really effective doing the kind of the black and white kind of sketchbook art style, very like Western themed and drawn from. I guess that's the other thing you'll get if you buy the different supplements, is you'll get the different art styles. So there's that. And the con, basically my only con is the way it's structured. I don't think it should have been released as multiple supplements at all. I think it really should have been one big product, and then you've got your rules, and then just have different stat blocks for all the various different kinds of vehicles, just as an all-in-one, like here's all your vehicle needs. I think that would have been a more effective way to present this information. Final verdict: various vehicles effectively applies the expanded land vehicle rules from Descent into Avernus into more practical, everyday wagons, carts, and more. Thank you everyone for watching this video review. You can see my written review at roguewatson.com. You can support my work at patreon.com/roguewatson. You can follow our own D&D adventures here on my YouTube channel. Thank you.